The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Katriona Lang, has called on Nigeria's president and his government to increase the funding for education in the country. The High Commissioner made this call on Tuesday via a tweet in which she argued that such investment would guarantee a future where every Nigerian child can access 12 years of quality education. President Muhammadu Buhari and the Nigerian delegation have joined other world leaders in London for the ongoing Global Education Summit, which is expected to raise $5 billion in support of education systems in up to 90 countries and territories where 80% of the world out-of-school children live.
Now, Professor Emmanuel Emenyonu, a former chairman or chairperson of the Department of Accounting, Southern Connecticut State University in the United States, joins us now to discuss the likely impact of the Education Summit on educational development in developing countries. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure a pleasure. I'm sure you're paying keen attention to this particular summit. What should we expect to be on the menu?
Yes, thank you very much for asking the question. First of all, let me commend the people behind this summit. The value and the benefit of education for human development and the advancement of societies can never be understated. I've listened to some of the presentations during this conference. As to your question, what I expect to be on the menu, in addition to the funding and the targeted programs, I also expect there to be some serious discussion about the security impediments to girl child education, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. It's good to make funding available, but when there are serious security issues that impede access to education, then I think that needs to be addressed also.
All right, it's because from your statement, you almost sounded like they are putting the cart before the horse in terms of securing the environment before thinking of educating a very key sector, talking about the girl child and that particular demographic. Now, how do we take a massive step forward, understanding that the Middle East still has this issue of security, and especially the people that suffer the most are the girl child, and we are seeing this prevalent in the Northeast, the Northwest, and some of the North Central in terms of insecurity and kidnappings that have literally dissuaded people from coming to school.
Now, the Nigerian government needs to take the issue of security more seriously. And I think that the issue of security vis-a-vis its role with respect to the girl child education, it's very, very important, because if we go back to the various abductions and kidnappings and so on, of course, they are targeted at discouraging education, especially the education of the girl child. So it's very, very important that the linkage be made between those two. And the Nigerian government, the current government, needs to demonstrate sincerity when it comes to this issue of security. I understand complications about banditry and all that, but when you have some swaths of North Central, where villagers are ransacked, schools are burnt, and then other people who are not indigenous to the area occupy the land and they stay there. And you have lots and lots of young people who should be in school who are in internally displaced people's camps. The government needs to show sincerity of purpose in tackling these issues and not seem to take sides with one group or the other. These are the things that will impair the access of the girl child or even boys to education. So the security issues are there. With respect to the government itself, the funding of education The 2021 budget, for instance, was just 5.6%, the lowest percentage of Nigeria's budget devoted to education for the past 10 years. That does not encourage even funders and partners like those who are going to be donating to the Global Partnership for Education. The Nigerian government, I agree with the British High Commissioner, Katrina Lang, the Nigerian government needs to step up and increase the funding of education. And also, especially so in this environment of insecurity, there needs to be a component of the education cost that will also be addressed to securing educational facilities all over Nigeria, actually, but especially in the troubled spots in the northeast, northwest, and the middle belt or north central.
Ahead of ourselves, because we know that we've had other situations where people have brainstormed around education. Most recently was to do with the Safe Schools Initiative conference we had here in Nigeria. How do we ensure that this particular summit yields dividends that can be traced? Because even the pledges made towards the Safe Schools Initiative when President Goodluck Jonathan was in office, we still don't see accountability with that in that regard. So what do we do this time around to ensure that we can trace the pledges and make sure it goes towards something much more effective?
Thank you very much. The donors and the sponsors need to put in place very rigid accountability mechanisms to ensure that the funds that are raised are used very judiciously. Because even within the context of education funding, oftentimes the sizable portions of the money raised do not go towards the core educational missions of schools. There is this issue with various Nigerian government officials at various levels where a lot of money gets spent on maintaining very, very bogus and ostentatious lifestyles of administrators, whether we are talking about the universities, secondary schools, and so on and so forth, to the detriment of procuring the necessary educational materials that students actually need to study with. So the partners, the people, the donors will need to put very strong accountability mechanisms in place to ensure that this time around it's not different from the past.
I want to say many thanks to you, and we'll still be following the Global Education Summit, which kicks off today and tomorrow.